The Mannin Line with Andy Wint.
Pastor Mike, good afternoon. This is Mannin Line on Manx Radio. Your chance to have your say by calling 66 1368. Text and WhatsApp on 166 177. Email studio@manxradio.com. Last week we mentioned the fact that there wasn't going to be much connection between the Isle of Man and Ireland, Northern and the Republic, after August time. But the good news is Logan has reinstated flights to Belfast for Christmas, 3 return services over the Christmas period. So that's something anyway. And just there's me telling you everything is a gorgeous day, and I'm looking at the webcams around the Isle of Man. It's a lovely day. Well, actually, I'm just checking now. Castletown's got some mist. Peel is clear, but Rand Douglas said we're wreathed in mist at the moment. Can't see a thing out of there. So anyway, Robert's with us now. Hi, Robert.
Hi, how you going? I was thinking Tynwald Day is coming up in 3 weeks' time.
3 weeks today.
3
weeks today,
maybe
Tynwald
you
Day.
convince me of why I should go.
Well, that's down to the... I mean, aren't you proud to go to Tynwald Day, Robert?
Well, you're not seeing it for me, but I know what you mean. I went there 20 years ago, but I haven't been back since.
It's interesting. That's an interesting point you make, Robert, because it has to be said that the public gallery has been probably less than half full now for the past few years. We don't get many superstar guests anymore, do we?
Well, I don't know. I mean, you get plenty of women that walk around there. What do they call that thing that they all sit on? The Hill of Beans or something? I don't know what it is.
Okay. Yeah, but we used to get foreign dignitaries who used to come. The King of Norway came. Prince Charles came when he was Prince Charles.
Yeah, I mean, it's fair enough. I just haven't been there for a long time. I know that Peter Karen used to go when he was there.
Yeah, the thing is that even if you, the formal stuff leaves you a bit cold, there's the field in the afternoon. It's fantastic. Every type of skeet there. It's like the Mannin Line with beef burgers.
So they still do watermelons?
I think they may do, yes.
Okay. All right. Well, maybe I'll check it out on the webcam this year and go next year.
You should come. You should go to that, Robert. Thanks for that. Yes, 3 weeks today. It is Tynwald Day, and of course we'll be broadcasting live from Tynwald in St John's, broadcasting the whole thing live. John Moss is going to be commentating. I'll be there in the morning, chatting to the politicians, and then in the afternoon, Howie and Christy will be on the field, chatting to everybody. All the charities are going to be there, so we hope to see you there 3 weeks today. Coincidentally, 3 weeks today. It's the Southern 100. Ken's on now. Hi, Ken.
Good afternoon to you. The proposed new NHS levy.
Yeah.
Closing date is Wednesday. Nowhere on the form, or if you go online, does it directly ask you, are you in favour of bringing it in? You can do, the last question is, if you don't, what should replace it if it doesn't come in? But it should be early on, because it's a typical government production. Doesn't ask you, they don't want a negative response. It should be one of the first 4 questions should be, are you in favour of bringing it in? No. And if people vote no, but there's no vote as such, because it's only hidden away in the last question, where what should replace it. Whether they ignore it, there's several pitfalls. It's not going to cost anything because it's going to go along the lines of income tax, but there are a few problems in that area. If you say, because all the answers I've done, if it's brought in, depending on if it's brought in, well, people paying the maximum, the 220,000, I've said they should pay 2% on the full earnings, in which case somebody's got to work out how much they actually earn rather than paying the 220,000.
Well, the fact is, Ken, we need the money. I mean, Manx Care needs the money. It doesn't matter how we've got here. We need the money. So something's got. We can't rob Peter to pay Paul.
Well, no. So the answer is use what's already there and keep income tax at 22%.
Right.
I assume that's why they've decided on 2% levy, because it was 20%, went to 22. I know it's gone down to 21, but you must assume. And the other thing, the more important thing, is I wish Manx Care could actually get the figures right and ask for the right amount of money rather than keep going back to Tynwald for an additional vote. The other thing about it is it'll be unfair because people's circumstances will be different. Jointly assessed couples, if there's a 2% levy on all your income, i.e. there's no double taxation relief for the levy, people might want to be, if they're jointly assessed at the moment, might want individual returns for the new levy, or vice versa. If you're individuals, you might be jointly assessed. So it's full of pit holes, and whether it will actually come in and disappear in the system like the consultation they did on how much you could keep when you went into, a care home.
Yeah.
That seems to have died a death.
Do you think this is going to be temporary, or do you think it will just slide in?
It will just slide in if it's brought in. Yes, you could increase national insurance, but again, people like me who are retired wouldn't be paying the levy. And there's another thing about charging people more who come to the Isle of Man. New residents. If they know it's in, perhaps you could just charge them, and then I do wonder whether it will happen and it will get lost in.
Well, the thing is that, Ken, everybody's going to notice if they're paying more tax on a permanent basis. I mean, our tax burden is heavier than it's been for ages now.
Well, yes, I know, but the 2% increase was only temporary, and it was supposed to be ring-fenced, but they don't know how much. I know it's gone down. He must have collected, when he collect more, since reduced it to 21%, so maybe he's not have his tax returns in yet. And the other thing, it says that it's going to be ring-fenced in the preamble, and then later there's a question, should you think it should be if it's brought in, should it be ring-fenced or go into general revenue? So why ask that question if they've stated it's going to be ring-fenced in the preamble?
Well, that is interesting.
But, there hasn't been, apart from when it was first sort of muted, there's not been much talk about it.
Okay, all right.
The closing date's Wednesday. Okay.
Appreciate it. Thanks, Ken. Yes, they've had 3,000, over 3,000. Thanks, Ken. Over 3,000 responses. This Wednesday is the deadline for this public feedback on new health proposals. The Treasury Minister says it's vital that you have your say. A public consultation on proposals for an NHS levy closes this Wednesday. When the consultation opened in March, Alex Allinson, MHK, said a range of options were being looked at, including applying the charge to different forms of income, separate from the current income tax system. The levy is going to be capped at £5,000 for individuals and £10,000 for joint assessed couples. It's estimated it'll raise £28 million per year for health. Now, it hasn't been without criticism. You may have heard last week Paul Wetherall, the chair of Liberal Mannin Party, said it was half-baked, suggesting it was unfairly disadvantaging those on lower incomes. The Medical Society has also voiced concerns. Now, you can find out more details of the proposals if you go to manxradio.com, click on the news page, and there's also a click-through to the actual consultation, so you don't have to search for it. If you go to manxradio.com, click on news and look for the news item highlighted public feedback on new health proposals vital. So if you, and also a note in from B, who just says, how is a specific tax for healthcare unfair on low earners? Surely each individual person has the same chance of needing healthcare, thereby it should be each individual person's responsibility to look after and finance their own contribution to the welfare fund. In many ways, when a person starts to earn after leaving full-time education, it's not unreasonable for them to pay towards their healthcare. That is called national insurance contributions. Maybe it's time to increase these contributions, but it has to be tiered contributions. Every person in society should not be expected to finance other people's vanity schemes and injuries and got when dangerous sports happen, for example. And Roger says, Andy, this is NHS tax. It's just another way to tax retirees. First thing to do is to make anyone coming to the Isle of Man for work to have medical insurance and no benefits for dependents for 5 years. Pay in to get out of the system, says Roger. Well, we're on now, and let's get to Julian with us now. Hi, Julian.
Hi, Andy. You're wreathed in fog, are you?
We are. We can't see a darn thing out of here. It's like being in Disneyland.
Well, being wreathed in fog reminds me of some of the due process that was mentioned on Friday.
Okay.
The DOI Minister, Michelle Hayward, not following due process with the 20-mile-an-hour rollout. The requirement for a report from the DOI Minister never seems to have happened. And on top of that, we haven't heard the DOI Minister's reasons for ignoring the opinions of the Chief Constable and the Chief Driving Examiner, which sort of begs the question, who exactly is the DOI Minister listening to? Words used on Friday like duped and reckless, well, that shouldn't be tolerated anywhere in government, especially in the highest office. I just wonder, Andy, if Anne Corlett really, perhaps it's time that she gave a statement as to what her original vision was for her proposal of the 20
Well,
limit.
you probably heard Chris Thomas, it wasn't speaking for Anne Corlett, but Chris Thomas on Friday said he thought that Anne Corlett's motion had been hijacked.
Yeah, to be honest, I think probably it's time that she actually came forward and actually clarified her position on this, because at least then we know what the original intention was. Also, if we're talking about due process, I understand that the MUA are imminently filing a planning application for the Caerby wind farm at Erie Staine, despite the environmental impact assessment not even being close to completion. So I hope that the chair of the planning committee, Rob Callister, he's doing a good job on the 20 speed limit, but I'd like him to intervene on this if possible, together with the principal planning officer, Jason Singleton, the new CO of DEFA, Tim Cowsell, and the DEFA minister, Claire Barber, reject outright any Caerby application for not following the due process, because everyone else would have to go through a process and completion of any kind of assessment for any kind of environmental thing, wouldn't they, Andy?
Well, you would have thought so.
Yeah, and perhaps the chair of the MUA, John Wannenberg, and the energy transition lead, Lizzie Riley, can explain what's going on. And then we've got the ETIO report with the Minister for DESC, Daphne Kane, seems to be stubbornly refusing to reveal the cost of the report, and perhaps more importantly, how the report referred to individual schools and teachers. And all this in the name of a vague term that you mentioned just a few minutes ago, not in the national interest. To know. So what exactly, this national interest, next time anyone says this in Tynwald, can we know exactly what the nature of the national interest that's going to be contravened by knowing about this ETIO report?
Well, she has not exactly said nothing. What she said is it's no more than 250,000 and no less than 150,000. So this ETIO report's costing, or maybe over 3 years, is costing basically between 150 and 250,000 pounds.
Sounds a bit like 23 million or 40 million or 100 million for the wind farm a bit, doesn't it? Also, you had a caller a few weeks ago. Did they say that they'd received a speeding fine from an ANPR camera on Ridgeway Street?
No, I don't think they did.
To remember?
No, I don't. I can't remember anything like that. I would have remembered if somebody had said that. And if anybody does remember it, then maybe I'm in a parallel universe.
Oh, right, okay. I'm sure I heard it. In which case, if let's suppose I'm right in an alternative universe. The primary legislation's only been applied to the port. So if it did happen, perhaps we could get some clarity on exactly what the rollout of ANPR cameras on the island is.
Well, we'd like to know. And the thing is, regarding this 20 mile per hour limit, and just going back to when you were talking about Ann Corlett, who's a very diligent constituency MHK for Douglas Central, her whole point of that campaign was called 20 is Plenty. It was all to do with being around Ballacameen High School and the schools, in that 20 is plenty and they should do that. And as everybody knows, around Quegg there's a time limited sign that comes on and off when you drive around there. And it has to be said, nobody phoned up and said, that's a bad idea. 20 is plenty around schools. Nobody said, that's rubbish, don't do it. The same can't be said for rolling 20 miles per hour out to further environs, to further places. It just seems to have, well, let's put it this way. If I'm charitable, it's not caught the public imagination, has it?
No, and I noticed when you're coming past the bus station going towards Lord Street, there was a 20 mile an hour sign just after Market Hill on the left. There's a little lane. And it was flat to the wall, showing that the 20 should go down the lane. That has been stepped out onto a new pole and rotated 90 degrees so that it's into the flow of Lord Street.
Has it been moved? This is the one by Fancy Street, isn't it, at the back of Ridgeway Street?
That's right.
By Market Hill, yeah.
I wonder, if anyone goes on Google Maps and looks at the street view and just nips across there and has a look, you'll notice that 20 sign was flat to the wall. So now it isn't. And it's not that easy to see. When you approach the traffic lights at the end of Duke Street, it's kind of down and to the left and sort of set way back off.
So you're saying the post, somebody's not just twisted the top round, have they? The post has been moved.
I would say so, because the post was right up against the wall. I can't imagine that you could rotate the sign without it banging into the wall. So it must have been moved at some point, I would have thought. But it's kind of, a little bit underhand in some ways. I mean, it's not very obvious. If you come off, say, from North Quay, it says 30. You go into the roundabout, you take a left round by the bus station, and there's no sign of it being anything other than 30. And then you've got one tiny little left-hand side 20 mile an hour sign, no other large signage anywhere. It's a bit easier to get caught, I would have thought, if you're going along Lord Street and not really realise it.
If that was for Fancy Street, that's a bit superfluous, because nobody would go. You couldn't get up to more than 15 miles an hour down Fancy Street anyway. It's you'd struggle to get anything more than a small car down there, so, fair enough. Okay, all right, appreciate it.
All right.
Good to hear from you.
Thanks,
24 minutes past 12, and a note in from Gail, who just said, we've got people who restrict us to 20 miles per hour anyway. They're called bad drivers. Oh, I won't say that. David's on now. Hi, David.
Hi, Andy. Just quickly, Robert just triggered my memory there. Actually, Tynwald Day is actually the 5th of July, isn't it?
It is, yes.
It's a Saturday.
But
so why are we having a celebration on the Monday?
Well, I think because if it's at the weekend, they always shift it to the Monday for some reason.
Why? If you have your birthday on the 5th of July, wouldn't you have it on the Saturday?
Well, you would have thought so. They did this a while back. Tynwald Day recently has never been at the weekend. It's always been a weekday.
No. But our differences make us different, don't we? Why do we have it on the Saturday? You can make the public holiday the Monday. That's fine. No problem at all on that. So in America, on the 4th of July, which is the day before ours, do you think Donald Trump's going to have, we'll put it to the Thursday or the Saturday or the Sunday?
Well, it's a bit like Christmas, isn't it?
Well, that's right. When you have your birthday, it's your birthday, isn't it? You don't say, I'll have it the next day or for convenience or whatever. But I was going to have a little quick whinge too about the 20 mile an hour zone. I'm really confused now. And it's in the public domain anyway, so it's no secret that the minister's coming to Onken tonight at 6 o'clock. So I presume it'll be a private discussion.
Right.
But I can say that she's coming to the thing to talk about the 20 mile an hour.
To see the commissioners.
So as far as all the commissioners. So as far as I'm concerned, because there's all sorts of things coming up now. When was it done? Who's pushing it forward? did we have the support of the council ministers? I'm hoping to ask a question, did she have the support of the council ministers? And why did she not have the support of the chief constable? And get an answer. And hopefully she'll do that. But the other thing I'm worried about now too, there's another public thing gone out too, I don't know if you've seen it there. She's going to have some public meetings to do with Onken and Douglas. And there they are, they're all in Douglas.
None in Onken?
Well, no. I can't see any anyway. So you would think, even as a matter of courtesy, I'm sure the commissioners would let her use one of the rooms somewhere up at the hub in Onken. I'm not speaking on their behalf at the minute, but I'd support that. So the people of Onken then can exercise their democratic right to say to her, why did you do this? Why are you doing it all over the place? And just to defend Anne a little bit in the House there, she was right regarding the schools, but a lot of people have done that already. Like you say, Braddon School's the same, QX's school there. It was a no-brainer. And even in Onken, where the two schools are, Onken School and Ashley Hill, they're in a 20-mile-an-hour zone. So they're already protected. But the biggest thing, and I'll get at this, is prosecutions and enforcement. That's the biggest issue to us all, is at the end of the day. If somebody's doing 30 or whatever, what are they going to do? Are they going to give that little leeway? I was doing 22 miles, or I was doing 25 miles. Who's going to make that decision? And isn't it a waste of
who's going to enforce it?
Time?
Who's going to enforce it? Who's going to find the person doing more than 20 miles per hour? How are they going to do it?
Yeah. I know. And like you say, she put 2 extra poles now down, going out the Whitebridge way, which want to be further out as far as I'm concerned. And if anybody wants to chat to me, give us a bell about it, because I think coming down the Whitebridge, it should be 20 anyway, coming into Onken. What's the sense of having 30 up to Lakeside when they're already doing speed? I can't see that. And the other one is Signpost Corner, I'm afraid. And coming down to my house, you make outside where I live, on the junction there, the 2 poles are up ready. And that's going to be 20 miles an hour. So when they pass my junction, they're into a 20. And when you go up the road again, you're going into a 30. And you're going past Birmingham School when the kids cross the road. Come on.
Well, who knows? Okay. Well, say hello to her tonight at Onken Commissioners from Mannin Line.
Don't worry. What I'll do is I'll if she doesn't answer, I'll do an email and include you in it.
Thanks for calling. Just now. Thanks for calling today. I don't know whether you saw on social media across the weekend, some people were saying that they've got fancy cars and they're triggering 20 mile per hour limits and saying you're in a 20 mile per hour limit. Now, maybe you've got one of these cars, but whether or not this is kosher, or whether it's just a blip in the system, or whether it's Google Maps, but some people are getting, in what will be 20 mile per hour zones, already an alert on their car to say you're in a 20 mile per hour zone. Can you text, email, call and WhatsApp, whatever's on your mind today? Love to hear from you if you've got anything to report. Particularly, nobody's found Elvis the dog yet, have they?
Love to win a Honda motorbike? Then enter Hospice Isle of Man's prize draw for the chance to win a Honda MSX 125 Grom motorbike worth over £4,000. Tickets are just £10 with the draw taking place on July the 25th. For the chance to win, get your ticket now. Call 672222. Visit your nearest hospice shop or see online at hospice.org.im/bike. The Honda Grom motorbike prize draw, supported by Isle of Man Motorcycles.
The extended Ramsey Garden Centre is deceptively large. You'll find a warm welcome and everything from bedding and perennials, fruit and vegetables, to lighting, garden ornaments, bird baths, bird tables and indoor and outdoor pots. Come and browse at Ramsey Garden Centre.
Discover a fabulous range of watches, gifts and jewellery at Ramsey Art Gallery, with top brand watches from Bulova, Citizen Eco Drive and Storm to Acura, Seconda and Timex. Plus, all watch purchases come with free lifetime watch bracelet adjustment service. There's stunning gold and silver jewellery, gifts for all occasions, and of course a fabulous gallery of limited edition prints and original artworks. Find all this and more at Ramsey Art Gallery, Jewellers and Engravers, opposite Ramsey RNLI shop.
Hi Liz, I see you've had your garage converted. We're desperate for more room.
Yes, come through and have a look. John called Manx Property Conversions. We now have an extra bedroom, but it could be another reception room, kids' playroom or office. They also did our conservatory roof last year. We were so impressed, we got them back to convert the garage.
Wow, I need that. What's their number again?
Call MPC on 450 500. That's 450 500. Or find them on Facebook at Manx Property Conversions.
In last week's sitting of the House of Keys, Laurie Hooper asked the Enterprise Minister whether the minimum wage will be increased to £13.05 by the 1st of October 2025 to reach equivalence with the minimum salary threshold for worker migrant visas at that date. In an interesting exchange, it emerged that government's position appears to be that it didn't want migrant workers to undercut Manx workers in the jobs market. Of course, that means that the minimum wage for migrant workers is higher than that for Manx workers. Find out more on Agenda this evening at 5:30pm on Manx Radio with me, Phil Gaughan. We also hear from Dawn Kinnish MLC, who's taking her first bill through Legco, which has just the faintest hint of poacher turned gamekeeper.
The Mannin Line with Andy Wint.
28 minutes before 1. Yes, Elvis, the German Shepherd, has not been seen yet. There wasn't a search, I think, at the weekend at Archalligan. Elvis slipped his harness on the 28th of May. He's been spotted several times at Archalligan, but not got anyway. If you can... and don't shout Elvis, please, when you go into Archalligan. And as well as Elvis, the Noble Support cat is missing. Has been missing since February. Possibly last sighted in a white van or near M&S. It's Dusty. So we've got Elvis and Dusty. Dusty, the Noble Support cat, is missing. She's got 1,500 followers on Facebook. Not just any old lost cat. The Facebook is Dusty's Adventure. If you can help, then find Dusty and Elvis, if you can. And Juan's on now. Hi, Juan.
Elvis has left the building. How was your weekend, Andy?
Well, it's very nice, thank you, Juan. Yes, it was good.
Very good, very good. And I've got to say to Robert, you have to attend Tynwald. The star piece of Tynwald is Andy Wint in that suit with that top hat. The only person with a top hat that fits. Trying not to get ice cream on his suit. That's got to be the event of the day.
Well, there we are. And I think there will also be some extremely good merchandise for sale on the field, won't there?
High-quality Chinese merchandise as well, I think, yeah. I had a couple of people ask me about my imaginary House of Keys circus last week, and they said, who would be the bearded lady? And I've got to say, it's a secret. But John Wannenberg will still be selling windmills to the children on the way in.
Good, yes. Anyway,
moving on from that. Just a few points on last week, a bit of housekeeping then. With Chris Thomas on Friday, I'm still glowing. Great communicator and influencer. I've put it on my business card along with Trump lover and misogynist. I've business cards full now. Alowan Lion Tamer and head of euphorisms. He mentioned Kroger. I briefly, fleetingly mentioned Kroger,
yeah.
and he pulled me up on Isle of Man National Gas Field. And the only reason I fleetingly mentioned that is because Chris you'd mentioned just before that, someone had messaged in called Bruno. And Chris had quite clearly said old Kroger and new Kroger. There was no mention of Isle of Man gas field, so just following up from what Chris said there. And Chris is a good orator, by all accounts there as well, I'm sure. I'm just seeing the meeting tonight that David mentioned. I'm wondering there, listening to Brian on Thursday, will there be rioting in the streets of Onken tonight? It's like the Che Guevara of Onken, as Brian. Well, it was good speaking on Thursday. I think he was saying a lot of how people feel at the moment in the island about what's going on. But my main point that I just wanted to put on to today was I was in Ramsey on Friday, and I walked into the main co-op in Ramsey, and we have what I've seen in England appearing over here. Steaks and meat in locked boxes that you have to get unlocked at the till on the way out the door.
Well, that's probably, I'm guessing, because the co-op is part of a UK chain, I'm guessing that's something they brought in across, because shoplifting has gone through the roof, particularly in urban conurbations. I mean, in London, it's almost a way of life. People just wandering, even Greggs are locking their pasties away in England. So I'm guessing that's just a kind of an edict that's come through from head office. I wouldn't have thought there's much meat stealing in Ramsey.
Well, I would agree with you on that, Andy. I think it is, but it would just be nice for a clarification somewhere of where we're heading, because once this mission creep comes into the island, it's all part and parcel of how we're changing how we live. And when you get that type of thing coming in, it shows distrust to the people. And like you've just said, do we actually need that here? It's just a sign of a creep that's coming into our society. We mentioned ANPR cameras before. Oh, and that's a point as well. The ANPR camera was out with the sign in front of the Villa Marina the other day, actually, Andy. The van that they've used for years doing ANPR was actually out in front of the Villa Marina with the ANPR in progress sign. So again, the question has to be asked there, if Jane Poole Wilson said that they haven't got permission to do that, and only at the ports, and Chris Thomas said that the other day, why is this being used for quite a few years here, and it's still being used?
I'm guessing, and it's not out all the time, is it? I'm guessing because I've heard that the ANPR camera has to be reconfigured on a regular basis, so they have to give it a run out. So I'm not saying that's the answer, but they have to give it a run out at some point, and you presume that that's a very busy road that they would do that. But if anybody's been nicked by ANPR, I'd be very eager to hear.
That'd be the same as the armed police unit. They've got to give them a run out every so often.
Well, that's what they said, that there were officers in Costa in Ramsey with guns, and it was just for training.
Not for a coffee. It's a good one. That I like that one, Andy. But just on the meat thing today, really, I just thought, it's just that creep into our society. Do we need it? Maybe Head of News can put a question into the co-op there and say, is this the way forward that they're moving?
Well, there's not much, and it's fair to say, and as you say, that's a measure of our society, is there's not much in the way of shoplifting goes on in the Isle of Man, and particularly because in the butcher's shops, the butchers watch everybody like a hawk anyway. So, the butcher's shops that we have, you wouldn't imagine they'll be locking their meat away in the future.
You would hope not. And that was really my point today.
Okay.
So, cheers, Andy.
Good to hear from you. Thanks for that, Juan. And Betty's on now. Hello, Betty.
Oh, hi, Andy. I just want to ask some questions about the new charge that they're saying they might put on the Manx on healthcare. Now, it seems that they're putting up to £5,000 a year on healthcare, which seems an awful lot to me. I know that they do need extra money, but the other thing is, this is going to be charged either on your income or on the rateable value of your house. And if it's going to be on rateable value, there's an awful lot of older people who live in a house on their own, and their houses are rated highly, but they haven't got a lot of money either. That's one thing. And then the other thing is, will we get extra or better health care if we have to pay more? And another thing still, would we all better off be paying insurance, healthcare insurance, instead of having the NHS at this rate?
Well, the thing is, we're supposed to be a low-tax jurisdiction. That's what everybody says. We're supposed not to be paying a lot of tax. At the moment, it seems like... And the other thing is, when Manx Care was created, they were supposed to identify savings. Manx Care is supposed to be costing less than it did.
Yes, I agree, Andy. I also think that probably a lot of people in Manx Care who administer things are being paid far too much money for what they actually do. There's so many things that I need answers for, and I'm sure a lot of other people need these answers too.
Well, we'll carry on asking the questions, but at the moment, actually next week, the boss of Manx Care's on, Teresa Cope's on next week, so we can ask her a week this coming Wednesday and see what's what.
I think it's quite important, and you would want, if you had to pay anything extra, to get a decent service. I don't think everybody gets a decent service from healthcare at the moment.
Well, it's fair to say that times have changed, Betty, but also it's fair to say that people are living a lot longer than they used to, and healthcare, the cost of healthcare, the cost of drugs and the cost of treatments and the equipment, and that goes up in price. So we're kind of on the horns of a dilemma.
I understand that, and actually I'm quite old, really, being 89, but and I think we're living too long, actually. I don't think that includes me, I don't think we should live this long unless we're really fit.
Well, please, Betty, don't go anywhere, for heaven's sake, please. Don't. That's. I want you to stay with us as long as you can.
Thank you very much.
Good to hear from you. Thanks for calling today. Maybe those who have private health cover shouldn't have to pay the 2% healthcare, says Teresa in Port St Mary. If you're paying healthcare anyway for private healthcare, why should you have to pay on top? 528 WhatsApps me just to say there have been 20 mile per hour markings on the roads at Pulrose Bridge and Power Station for years. Nobody takes a blind bit of notice. Point again. If you have a law that A, you're not going to enforce, and B, we don't know what the penalties may be. We don't know, do we? If this 20 mile per hour thing comes in, who's going to detect it? And surely, if you don't have a way of detecting somebody who's breaking the law, doesn't that law just seem a bit silly? Why is Cronkavody still on 50 miles per hour, says Lucy. It stays longer and longer every year, and to show the daftness of it, turn off on the wide main road onto a de-restricted B road. Thank you for that. The Manx Radio website linked to the online 20 mile per hour consultation doesn't work. We'll get our webmaster onto it. Could you, if they could do that, that'd be great. And another WhatsApp that just says, shoplifting in England, you're over the top, but you must be watching too much Crime Watch. Says Ramsey in Suffolk. Well, actually, I think we've got Gordon with us now. Hi, Gordon.
Hi, Andy.
Yeah.
Yes, I just wanted to add to this conversation about the shoplifting. My wife and I shop in the big co-op in Ramsey once a week, and as well as the expensive joints of meat now being in plastic boxes, which incidentally have GPS trackers on them, all the alcoholic spirits are now in glass-fronted locked cabinets, and you have to ring a bell to get somebody to come and serve you.
Really?
No, I asked, the last time we bought something from there, I asked one of the supervisors, surely this is a bit over the top. This is Ramsey. There can't be much shoplifting here. And she looked at me and said, you wouldn't believe the amount of stock we've been losing. This is why we've done it. There is a big problem of shoplifting.
Good heavens! But these are expensive. This is not mince or chops or anything, is it?
Oh no, it's joints of beef and stuff like that.
Well, they're about what, 30 odd quid sometimes, aren't they?
Well, they can be, yes. But I say all the spirits are now in locked cabinets as well.
Wow, because I think in Tesco they just wrap them in those metal nets, don't they? So the spirits are in cabinets in Ramsey.
And they are glass-fronted locked cabinets with a bell push on the front, and you ring the bell and somebody comes and serves you.
Good Lord. How do you feel about that?
Well, if it stops the problem, I've no objection to it.
But Gordon, it's not very Ramsey, is it?
Well, exactly, it's not. I've lived in Ramsey for 50 years, and I never realised that there was a problem. But my wife is a recently retired pharmacist, and she said they used to have huge problems with people nicking stuff out of the shops as well.
Well.
Yeah.
I appreciate it, Gordon. Thanks for calling today.
Okay, Andy.
Good to hear from you. It's 14 minutes before 1 on Mannin Line. Well, that's news to me, and it's slightly depressing, isn't it? That expensive cuts of meat are now in plastic boxes at the Co-op in Ramsey.
Do you know, Dave, the Q Plus counter always has just what I need. Whatever plumbing job I'm working on, whether a state-of-the-art bathroom or the latest heating system, Q Plus always help. With extensive supplies, friendly, knowledgeable service and great prices, it really is the one-stop shop for trade and DIY customers alike. And if they don't have what you want in stock, they'll find it for you. See for yourself. Just take a look at Q Plus on Facebook.
Order! In this case for Manx Car Store, let's review the facts. Firstly, you handpick an excellent range of quality cars for all budgets, are a trusted car sourcing specialist, you knowingly open 7 days a week, and are subject to an excessive number of 5-star web reviews. How do you plead? Guilty. Very well. This court hereby declares Manx Car Store 5-star.
Don't take their word for it. Find out for yourself. Visit manxcarstore.com or find them on Facebook.
The race is on to help local charity Manx Breast Cancer Support Group, and you can help win it. It's the KPMG Promenade Relay, Friday 18th of July, along Douglas Seafront, with 100% of entry fees and sponsorship going to Manx Breast Cancer Support Group, dedicated to enhancing breast cancer care on the Isle of Man. Gather your team of up to 4 people to tackle a 10k course, or go it alone over 5k. Entries close 16th of July. Visit kpmg.ws/Prom Relay 2025 for details and registration. The KPMG Promenade Relay, supported by your nation's station, Manx Radio.
The Journey to a Dream podcast is where racing meets real life, from onboards to odd jobs and friendships forged at full throttle. This is all about motorcycle life beyond the helmet.
You can watch as many onboards, you can think you know where you're going, but everything changes at speed.
I'm a forklift mechanic. I've never had to say that in English.
What is it in Dutch?
Ben een heftruckmonteur.
Every time you go to a race meeting, before you know it, you can soon strike up great friendships and conversations because the motorcycling sort of community is so connected.
The Journey to a Dream podcast, brought to you by Kawasaki Insurance, is available now on the Manx Radio Motorsport website or wherever you get your podcasts.
The Mannin Line with Andy Wint.
12 minutes before 1, WhatsApp in on 700. The MSPCA shop in Ramsey has had a lot of stock stolen. Apparently they've had to rearrange the shop to try and deter shoplifters. This is brand new news to me. If you're in the business, if you're a retailer, then just tell me, where's this shoplifting come from? I wonder if the raft is coming back to Douglas Bay for the summer. It's a crying shame. Nothing for the children to do, says 470. Brian's with us now. Hello, Brian.
Hello, Andy. I'm going to be very brief because I've got 3 little points, only small points. I heard David on. He was saying about the 20-mile-an-hour pole, which we assume is going to be the 20-mile-an-hour pole, right at the end of his road. Well, that's interesting because it's right by the hedge that forces people to walk in the street at the end of his road that's been like that for years. So perhaps if you're really interested in safety, let the people walk on the footpaths. Carrying on with the 20-mile-an-hour limit, I haven't heard, you may have had somebody on because I'm not an avid listener to the David Quirk programme, I mean your programme. If you're going to introduce the 20-mile-an-hour speed limits, that will slow the traffic down, including the buses. Now, are you going to have more buses and more drivers, or stick with the ones you've got, but amend the timetable? Because they won't be able to achieve the timetable if they're not flying along as they normally do. No comment.
Yeah, I just wonder. This just adds to the confusion. This all seems just not. It doesn't seem coherent, Brian.
Now let's go to the next phase, which is slightly linked. Apparently, I haven't seen it myself, we're advertising for a new chief executive for the DOI. Is that correct? 110,000 a year.
Yeah, I think that, have they got one now? Well, go on anyway.
Okay. All I'm saying is I don't have a say in the recruitment of such a position, but I just hope they're not going to promote from within, because to promote within is bringing more arrogance and more fiscal imprudence and total incompetence to the top job.
Yeah.
Surely they can't do that.
By the same token, lots of people think we shouldn't be bringing UK civil servants over who just cut and paste solutions from elsewhere in the UK. So there surely must be a middle line.
Yeah, the middle line is get somebody that's intelligent and capable of applying prudence and common sense and do what he's told by the political masters. Don't just ignore everything that comes out of Tynwald, because that costs us enough. But we're lacking in common sense throughout government, and that includes the political members. Well, what is the point of this 20 mile an hour? Is this a safety thing? If you want to make it safer, there's a whole raft of things that are in place already that they haven't done anything about.
Yeah.
God help you if you wanted to walk from the Groudle Hotel to the Liverpool Arms along the footpath. It is impossible. The curb is there, but the footpath is either a lake or totally overgrown. And that's commonplace everywhere, all over the island. Total lack of maintenance. And the stupidity of the policy on hedges and hedge trimming and the nonsense about the protection of the birds like a firm, solid hedge. The smaller birds get into the middle of it to protect themselves from other predator birds. Leaving them to go all leggy and high makes them susceptible to the winds. They'll blow over, pulling chunks of hedge with them. But, you know, the evidence of that is just above the test centre. That hedge is one of the first on the island to start collapsing.
Yeah, okay. I want to.
And you can't see out there.
I just want to ask you, Brian, because you've got experience of this, and it is. I want to ask you about sanction for failure. You worked for somebody who was quite hot on sanction for failure for many, many years. Do you think that's disappeared from public life? It's not disappeared from commercial life.
No, it's totally disappeared from public life. And as you will appreciate, a lot of my very, very close friends have quite sizable businesses on the island. And they are absolutely appalled at the way the island is being run. But some, if not every single one of them, derive significant income from government contracts. So they can see the wastage and the nonsense and the imprudence of the way they allocate contracts, but they can't say anything about it, because if they did, they wouldn't be included on the tender lists. And that's happening right across the board. And it's unfortunate, but we're spiraling downhill. 1984, I think, was the turning point where we moved away from the board system and we started paying our MHKs. Up to that point, you had John J. Bell and Clifford Irving and Miles Walker, who were there, undoubtedly, for the kudos and to feather their nests. But to be there, they had to have an independent income. Now, I'm sorry, and I don't wish to be insulting, but every election, it's a popularity contest that the postman who brings your cheque every week is going to win. And on that subject, did I hear £13.10 minimum wage?
Yes.
Well, I think £13.10 seems an excellent amount. Let's say multiply that by 30 and give that to the pensioners, because currently they're on about £2 an hour.
Okay, all right, Brian. Good to hear from you.
Thanks, Andy.
Thanks for that. It's 5-1 now. Yes, Brian mentioned it's actually the deputy role that's advertised in the DOI at £110,000. It's currently, actually, I think Mr. Robinson's there, Geoffrey Robinson. I think he's actually in charge. Chief Exec or Chief Officer is Emily Curfey, but it's advertised on the government website, jobtrain.co.uk, actually. Deputy Chief Officer for the Department of Infrastructure. It's a permanent role, 37 hours a week and £110,000. If you fancy it, that is. So we'll see. By the way, somebody said 291 a tip box and 2 charity boxes were stolen out of a cafe at the weekend. I didn't know this. What I do know is I think the lady and gentleman who ran the Union Mills Memorial Hall during TT mentioned that last year, when it was done for charity, somebody stole the charity bucket. It's a very disconcerting turn of events on the Isle of Man. This never ever used to happen. On the subject of Pulrose Bridge, when will the drainage be sorted out? Every time we get heavy rain, it's always flooded at Pulrose Bridge at the junction of Peel Road and is always under about a foot of water. I think it's about time that it gets sorted. I'm fed up with people talking about the cost of 20 miles per hour. Does anybody question the cost of changing the speed signs every year for the TT? Says this correspondent. Ted and the Motorcycle Festival, they all need an RTO. Speeding men think that everything is okay. Thanks for that. Oh, by the way, remember, everything you hear on Mannin Line is honestly held opinion. It's an opinion programme. And if you ever hear anything that you'd like to comment on, by all means, you're offered a right of reply to say what you have to say. You can call anytime on 66 13 68 during the programme, midday till 1, 5 days a week, or the answer phone on 682 631. A week today, we're talking housing with David Ashford, MHK, Chair of Housing and Communities, and the Chair of Housing at Douglas City Council, Councillor Peter Washington. A week this coming Wednesday, Teresa Cope is in, the Manxcare Chief Executive. Any questions for any of those, then you can get them in by emailing manninline@manxradio.com or go onto the answer phone 682 631. Right, that's it. Thanks to Chris on the phones today. Enjoy the rest of your Monday.
WINT